Welcome to yet another episode of Corporate Diva Series. As you might have already seen, entire March 2023 is dedicated for women leaders across the globe, featuring Corporate Diva Tribe. And once again, I thank Deepika Trehan for this strategic collaboration and providing us the contacts of all these leaders. So our special guest today is Deepika Rajor, who not just a qualified human resource professional for 13 years now, but a doting mother of two beautiful daughters as well. In fact, I am also a father of two beautiful daughters, so we are part of the Two Daughters Club. She has beautifully integrated her personal and professional life after facing some of the toughest times during her journey towards transitioning from corporate to motherhood and back. She's an electronics and communication engineer from Delhi College of Engineering and a management graduate from IIM Kozhikode, which is Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode. She's a doodler and an aspiring coach. So this is the Guiding Voice podcast series, the Guiding Voice for a Better Future. Friends, I am your host Naveen Samala, just a fellow IT professional on a mission to make the world a better place to live. Through the Guiding Voice, we drive conversations that matter and conversations that add value to your life and to your career. Thank you so much for joining me. Deepika, hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice and appreciate you being part of the journey.
Thank you, Naveen. It's an absolute honor to be here and, thanks for having me on board.
Yeah, pleasure to have you, Deepika. And I have heard a lot of great things about you from Deepika and I couldn't wait to get into this conversation. So finally we are here. So Deepika, maybe can you briefly share your career journey, highlighting the top 3 milestones in your career?
Sure, Naveen. I think thanks a lot for asking this question. Typically, when someone asks these questions, you talk about your, work experiences, which organizations, what experiences. But I would like to talk about something which came into my life much earlier. And, this goes back to my early adulthood days. I had just touched my 18 and, there were a lot of inputs coming in, what career I should go for, what should I take decision on. And just like any other, fresh pass out of school, I was not sure what to do. I pursued engineering based on, a lot of guidance that I got from my parents, his friend circle, and then eventually joined, a job with an organization called Reliance Infrastructure in the power sector. Soon I realized that this is not the place I would like to be, and I wanted to do something different. And that's where, my very first milestone hit me. And, that milestone for me was my decision to pursue an MBA. It must sound like a very regular decision, to you or even to the larger world. But I must mention this was massive for me.
Mm-hmm.
I come in from a very traditional North Indian middle class family where while my family was fairly progressive, but we only knew 3 careers, whether either you could be a doctor or an engineer or an IAS officer. There's nothing else that exists. So, not only back then I decided to pursue my MBA, but I also quit my power sector job, which was like the vanilla 9 to 5 job, which was considered to be an ideal for a working woman, back then. My father, who is actually a doctor, and, he is fairly and conventionally the most progressive gentleman in our family. He himself also was very, very hesitant to let me choose this career trajectory. Many times he told me, Deepika, are you sure? You want to leave this and choose a life which is much more hectic, which is going to be more demanding. You will not be able to manage or balance your domestic responsibilities and your career. Right? Don't forget that domestic responsibilities are your primary, responsibilities. I always got mixed signals. On one hand, my father is telling me that you have to become independent, you have to make a career, you have to make a difference. On the other hand, he's telling me, Deepika, you have to balance and, you have to take care of your family and things like that. So it was very confusing at times.
Yeah.
But I just said, I was continuously telling myself, and, me being that typical rebellious little me, I decided that I have to now move ahead and I have to make it work at any cost. And this could have actually been one of those first ever things that a girl child has done in our entire family of both sides. So I think today, as I reflect back, I want to thank my parents for letting me choose this career journey. Yes, it is hectic. Yes, it is demanding, but it is so accomplishing. It is so comforting for myself to see I'm doing what I wanted to do. And just to give you a brief, as soon as I entered my MBA, my journey has only moved forward. So after my MBA, I got into an internship in sales with an organization called Tata Motors. I think I did pretty well, and hence landed a PPO with them, started my first job with them. I was there for almost 2.5 years. I worked on various domains, like HR, business partnership, talent acquisition, performance management. And in fact, I had a 1 year, more than 1 year long stint with their biggest plant facility, managing their performance management vertical based out of Pantnagar. Eventually I got married, and just like any other trailing spouse, I also had to move locations. So I moved from Pantnagar to Bangalore, and that's where I joined a new organization, Wipro Consumer Care. There, I worked very, very closely on campus recruitment, process automation, once again, HR business partnership for almost 3 years. Eventually, hit another big milestone in my life, which was expecting and having my first daughter. And for me, again, my primary responsibility was catering to my or nurturing my family. So that's where I had to move back again from Bangalore to my hometown, which is Delhi NCR. And that's when I joined PepsiCo. And it's been 7 years in PepsiCo now. In fact, I'm completing my 7 years day after tomorrow. So it's
Wow.
absolutely wonderful, as I look back. But I have actually not looked back, ever since I joined PepsiCo. So I currently I'm leading talent acquisition and employer branding for PepsiCo India.
Wow. So advance congratulations on completing 7 years. And by this time
Thank
this
you.
episode gets aired, I think it will be a few days after your 7th anniversary. But congratulations.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So one thing what I felt is doing this MBA after engineering, right? It is something very few people take that decision, because normally what I have observed is, especially from my GE days and all, soon after graduating, people come work for 2 years or 3 years, and then they gain that experience and fly to US or some Western countries and do this MS or MBA and all. So, yeah, as you said, it is one of the rarely taken path. I see that all those decisions that you have taken have worked so well for you. And with that, let's move to the next question, Deepika. Can you share your success mantra? Especially, I'm curious to understand top three things that have attributed to your success so far.
So, Naveen, this one is a little tough, I must mention, to answer. And, when I have been reflecting all through, and, I keep telling myself, what is it that has pushed me to come so far? I must mention the background that I come from. We didn't get anything very easily. So, it was not, we had no sense of entitlement because we were, conditioned to believe that everything has to be earned. And only if you have that zeal, that enthusiasm, that passion to make it work for yourself, only then it will work for you. So my biggest motivators have been my inherent hunger, to keep learning and making it big in whatever I do. Ever since I started taking my own decisions, even the smallest ones, things like going back to the school days, making sure that I am putting covers on my notebooks on my own, I'm writing my name on my notebook on my own, to eventually walking up to the school on my own, and managing my homework, my preparation for exams on my own. So I think I became independent very, very early, I think, in my life. And hence this inherent hunger to keep learning and make an impact has been very natural to me. So this continues to be one of my biggest motivators. I think in addition to that, what has been most important for me is constant support from my family. Ever since I started my career, so while till the time I was studying, it was absolutely only me. So I had nobody else or no other responsibilities to, really cater to. But the moment I got into a job, I felt that I'm settled, and naturally, just like any other person, I also got married, and I thought that this is the right time, and now life is sorted. Very soon, it hit me that it is just the beginning. And that's where I started realizing the importance of the role of family, especially my partner. And I'm very lucky, to have a partner like mine right now. And he makes sure that he's able to be a partner to my journey as much as I am a partner to his journey. And the third thing that has really worked for me is having, and this particular aspect actually has taken action for me only over the last 4 to 5 years. And that is about having my own personal board of directors. These are those people who are my coaches, my mentors, my confidants, who I can reach out to, who I can share my, situation with, who I can seek guidance from. And some of these pillars, and Deepika Trihan is actually one of them.
Wow.
Some of these pillars have been very, very instrumental, in my success so far. So, yeah, I mean, sorry for a big answer, but these three things have really worked for me.
No, it makes sense actually. Like, thanks for highlighting those. And one other thing, which is a common thing, is even I became so independent, right, at maybe at third class or fourth standard onwards. I never depended on my parents. Of course, I come from a very humble background. Both my parents were illiterate and all, and we are the first generation grads as well as postgraduates and all. In fact, I didn't depend even on my siblings. So I think it has resonated so well with me, and I can understand if you are independent right at the early stage, it is going to help us a lot in future. And that's why I keep telling my daughters as well, just try not to depend on your mom or me to as much as possible. Wonderful. And one other
Right.
thing, yeah, having the personal board of directors and one even the sponsors, right, they play a huge role, who can vouch for us and all. So I think you have highlighted some wonderful points, and with that, let's move to the next question. So, Deepika, I'm
Right.
also curious, like, did you ever imagine that you would reach the position where you are? Like, what exactly motivated you to step up and become a leader in the organization?
So, honestly, I never thought, where I will land. Honestly, because I didn't have enough awareness,
Yeah.
at that time. I didn't know, while I'm getting into MBA, I don't know what lies ahead. So I never thought back then that I want to be this person, or I really didn't have a role model in that domain, because in my family there was nobody that I could look up to from that kind of background. And outside I didn't have too much of exposure. So I think for me it's been over a period of time that I've started unraveling what exists, or what is there, and what are those opportunities that can actually help me keep progressing upwards. And sometimes it is very, very important for us to just pause and reflect. What is it that we are doing? Why are we doing it? And what is our maybe north star that we are wanting to chase? So this I have been trying to do a little bit more, I would say, proactively since last 4 to 5 years, where I'm trying to understand myself a little better, where I'm trying to really think about what is it that I want to do. Is it just a job that I want to stay in and earn a certain amount of money and keep growing on that? Or is there a larger purpose that I am believing in, which I am trying to cater to in a longer term? So this has been a constant discussion in my head. I don't have an answer yet. Yes, there seems to be some crystallization that is happening, but I must mention, the journey so far has been highly rewarding, but definitely not smooth at all. It has been rough. It has been full of adventure. There have been so many highs and lows, and it has been tough. It has been tough to sail through. Sometimes because I felt that I am lost, and the other times because I felt that the responsibility that I have to cater to is really daunting, and some other times because I had so many conflicting priorities that I had to cater to in order to make sure that I am feeling balanced and I'm able to play that role of the individual who I am today. Right. I just touched earlier in our conversation that for me my biggest guiding light has been my upbringing. This the way we have learned to live and thrive has always inspired me to look beyond the horizon and step out of my comfort zone to become independent and take my own decisions. My mother, who has always been a homemaker, she always saw her dreams through my eyes. So she keeps all, even today she keeps telling me, Deepika, I'm so proud of you. What I could not achieve, you have achieved, and please keep going. Remember that I'm always there with you. And on top of it, my father, who is the father of two daughters and one son, being the progressive self that he is, he wanted to make sure that the future of his daughters is absolutely secure and bright. So he constantly, kept reminding us that you have to become independent, you have to do something for yourself, you have to make a name, and you have to make us all proud and things like that. So there was a lot of pressure all through, one, because of all of these expectations, and second, because we were a family of five, and my father was only the breadwinner or bread earner in the family. And he was a doctor, he's a doctor, and back then he was in his residency phase. He was not earning too handsomely. It was very difficult. Every choice that we had to make, we had to really really evaluate, before going ahead. And even the smallest of the things, a chocolate, for example. So all of these situation, this upbringing actually pushed us to feel that, do we want a similar scenario for ourselves and our children as we move forward? And that has been my biggest push to do something big. And this is big for me because this is not something that has been achieved by anyone in my family. It may not be big for the larger world, but for me it is massive. I have learned to internalize, in fact I've learned and now internalized that no matter what, financial independence for a woman is a must. And for me, this is an ongoing journey. So today I'm not saying that I'm fully financially independent. Yes, I am. But is this the end of the journey? Probably not. This is actually the beginning of my journey. And, every step that I'm taking today, I feel so rewarded, when I'm able to do quality work, when I'm able to do meaningful work and I get rewarded for it. I feel, the sense of accomplishment, and my hunger to make more of it continuously increases and pushes me to go beyond my comfort zone, right? And my journey, which started off way back as an executioner, is transitioning to a thinker and an ideator, and eventually probably a strategist and a creator. That's what I want to do. I do not want to stop here. I worked hard and I want to stay ahead of my own self always. That's how I keep challenging myself. Very, very simple way of motivating my own self, but it has worked very well for me so far.
That's awesome. And you have so candidly shared actually all the things that have happened in your family and all. In fact, I could resonate with so many things. The way I am conversing with my daughters, the way we manage budget and everything else, finances, evaluating every part of it and all. I think, yeah, this is going to definitely help people who are really, really aspiring to make it big, right? So you don't need to be born with a silver spoon or a gold spoon or a diamond spoon as such. All you need is
Yeah,
that hunger,
absolutely.
right? Wonderful, Deepika.
So true.
And yeah, now let's move ahead and talk about the challenges, right? Because since this is a women series and all, we wanted to highlight some of the challenges that especially women face, right? So one of them is the challenges that you might have faced post maternity, right? What kind of challenges did you come across and how did you deal with them? Because definitely it is going to help some young women who are listening or watching this episode and entering the workforce, right? So they can be better prepared. That's the whole intent of asking this question.
Right. So, Naveen, before I start answering that question, while yes, it was challenging, but I want to confess, that parenthood, especially motherhood, has been the most beautiful thing that could ever happen to me, in my life. This gave me it was like a rebirth. I started looking at life in a very different, with a very different perspective, in a very different context. And, I continuously keep gratifying my own self that, wow, Deepika, what have you done? You've created a new life. You are capable of such a wonderful thing. But oh, it flips your life around. It's something that one cannot experience unless that person gets into parenthood. And it's very funny, to share and to realize that how nobody tells a pregnant woman how her life is going to change forever after having the baby. Everyone talks about the great things associated with it. You'll have a baby, you'll be a mother, and these little children will keep walking around, they'll take care of you in your older days and all that. I think that's true, but then it's a long journey till the time we reach a stage where our children become independent. And it's a long and painful journey, and so much more if you are a working mother. And if you decide to have a second child, then it's it's way more difficult. So I was also only shown the rosy side of the picture of motherhood, and career was not a part of that at all. I only realized it as soon as I became a mother myself. The maternity phase of 3 to 6 months was okay. You had all the support, everyone was around you. You are still trying to recover. Yes, there is a phase of depression, but you would still manage to come out of it by getting motivated over a period of time. The moment you join back the office, the reality hits you, and it becomes so easy for any new mother who joins back work to soon forget their pre-motherhood self. That's exactly what happened with me. I used to struggle to imagine a time when I did not have the children, or I did not have my first daughter. How I had such luxury of time, how I was able to manage my, career and all other things, have fun, enjoy, and, not be worried about so many other responsibilities. But, this actually pushed me to feel that this is the real Deepika. This is the Deepika who struggles between so many conflicting priorities, right? For us women, family has always been the most important and aspect of our life, and career always takes a backseat, right? And I must tell you, Naveen, very interestingly, I did quit after having my first daughter. I quit Wipro Consumer Care, thinking that we'll see, whatever will happen. And, I was very typical, traditional, soon to be mom who was telling my husband, I remember we were taking walks in the park, and I used to tell him that, I think I will take a pause of 2 years. And you continue your work. We will relocate. I'll take a pause of 2 years. I'll join back. It's okay. And my income is only an additional income. Those were the conversations. That's the conditioning, that I had, and as now I reflect upon it, I just laugh at it. What was that? Why was I even neglecting my own aspirations and neglecting my own self? Just to make sure that I am able to be a good mother, in the eyes of other people. I am able to be looked upon as a great daughter-in-law, for example, or a daughter for that matter, who's able to park her career and focus on her family life. But I must mention, with a lot of family support, I resumed my career with PepsiCo immediately post my maternity break. So thankfully, I did not let the break elongate for myself, and hence I was able to rejoin, the corporate world soon. I started focusing on my career again. Soon I realized that, soon I learned to strike a balance between corporate and, personal life, and had some of the best and the most rewarding years, over a period of time in my corporate journey. I remember realizing how full of life I was, when I was pursuing my aspirations and being myself. However, life took another turn when the second daughter was born. It was overwhelming, exhausting, to handle emotions of the neglected toddler and the newborn together. It was depressing, for not being able to have that mind space to my, my own self, and think about how I want to live my own life. It was really tough. It was tough to juggle between so many responsibilities and expectations. And it became even worse when I joined back. So when I joined back, within a few months, I started facing intense work pressure. I was taking care of talent acquisition, and this job, as you must be aware, is hyper demanding. So many stakeholders, so many variables, so many here's and there's and nuances. Soon, and very soon, my team also got changed. And lot of work plus new team added so much more pressure onto me, and somehow the timing was not the right one. I must admit, it was not the best. For example, my own personal benchmarks of making it big in everything I do, being perfectionist in every aspect, soon became daunting, to manage. So much so that I thought of giving up multiple times. I was not happy at all with my situation, with myself, and eventually what I started doing was, in order to meet my own high standards, of quality of delivery, I started working 15 to 18 hours a day. So I started compromising on my sleep. I started compromising on my personal time, and 15 to 18 hours of work, 7 to 8 hours catered to my infant, and whatever 2 to 3 hours that were left actually were, sleep. So my body and mind started wearing out. And today, as I reflect, while I'm still on that journey, today, as I reflect, I see how wrong that decision was to deprioritize my own self just to cater to my urge of reaching perfection in everything that I do. I reached the stage of emotional and physical breakdown. And, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't discuss with my manager because I used to fear that she will judge me. I couldn't discuss with my family, fearing that they would say that you chose this life on your own, nobody else told you. And nor could I discuss it with any friends because I hardly have any time left, to have that discussion. But I did discuss this with my partner. And, he, knowing how ambitious and career driven I was, tried his best to support me in this situation. He made sure that he's there, he's sharing domestic load, he's giving me a break, he's making me feel better just by spending time with me. However, I just felt that I need an unlock. This is a deadlock that I've hit in my life. I cannot let this be, like this. Then I decided to reach out to my mentor, Deepika Trihan. And I remember calling her up and telling Deepika, I can't do this anymore. I want to quit. This was my one liner, and Deepika would also recall the same thing. Me calling and telling her, Deepika, I can't take this anymore. And she was shocked because we have been in knowing each other for almost 5 years now. And she was shocked to see what I had done to myself. And she could relate to what I was going through. We spoke for hours, and I just felt that it was so important for me to speak and vent it out. It was just piling up over a period of time. After talking to Deepika, I felt heard, I felt acknowledged, I felt that I'm not being judged, and I felt accepted. you know it helped me clear that fog in my head. My thoughts came out a lot more clearer. And I remember Deepika telling me, Deepika, well, we both are named twins. So she told me, Deepika, that while you are thinking you want to quit, I cannot let you quit. I do not allow you to quit. That's what she said.
Awesome.
And that's when I realized that, oh my God, somebody else has this faith in me while I have lost that faith in myself.
Yeah.
And she reminded me what I was capable of. She told me that this is just a tough phase and there are ways to manage this phase. She told me it is okay to seek support, don't worry about judgment. She told me that please do not be too harsh on yourself. Why are you wanting to be perfect when you know things are falling apart? And she told me how I should not become a victim of this situation and succumb to it. After that discussion, and I had multiple conversations with her, but after that life changing discussion, I took small steps, to unlock this situation for myself. Small steps like setting up a support system at home. I was getting so overwhelmed with two kids and taking care of them, taking care of my parents, taking care of my husband and the household activities. I just started letting things go. I have this strong urge of keeping my house squeaky clean, but I gave that up. I realized that I cannot do that anymore. I requested and told my husband that let's start sharing the load. And he, being absolute partner in our journey, didn't hesitate. In fact, volunteered to take a lot more than I was able, than I wanted to take. I started prioritizing myself. I won't say that I am fully there yet, but I have started prioritizing myself. I give myself a break. For example, being now the mornings, when the elder one has to go to school, I do not pack her tiffin. I just lie down with my younger one and I try to relax and spend time with her. And that's something that my husband is now doing. And I have started telling myself that it's okay to not be perfect in everything. It's not easy, Naveen, I must mention to you, but I'm telling myself that, okay, Deepika, breathe. It's okay, to not be perfect in everything. So it has been a journey. It has been a painful journey. It has also been, I would say, a revealing journey, which actually told me that I am capable of so much more than I think I am. Right. And yes, it's going on, and I will keep improvising as I keep moving ahead. But yeah.
Awesome. Simply fabulous. And I hear you. I can resonate with many of the things by observing few of my friends who are juggling with two kids, especially being a working mother and all. And thank you for sharing that. Now let's take a quick break. So welcome back after the break, and we were having some great open, candid conversation with Deepika Rajor, and she has shared so openly about the kind of challenges that she has faced post maternity. And now let's continue the conversation, Deepika, and let's talk about what actions did you take to ace in your career after the break.
Right, Naveen. So I did touch upon some of them, in the earlier part of the conversations. I tried to make minor tweakings or changes,
Yeah.
at both my personal front as well as professional front. So at my personal front, I set up a support system in place, making sure that I have a cook, making sure that I have a domestic help, making sure that I have somebody always around to take care of, the children, for example. I made sure that I have shared the load. I'm not being too fussed about things that should be done my way. And third biggest tweaking that I did to my own self was that stop expecting perfection. If there are kids, the house is bound to be messy, so it's okay. I started
Yeah.
to let it go. On the work front, I actually tried to make, I had a very open conversation with my manager, and after having this discussion with Deepika, I was able to think a little better. That's when I had a conversation with my manager, who's also the CHR of the organization, who very very it was a pleasure to see how she was also able to understand and empathize my situation.
Yeah.
And my fear of being judged was not there at all. Soon she told me, that Deepika, tell me what are your challenges. And that's where we actually tabled down all the challenges, how the team is new, how we are under resourced, and how we want to make an impact. And hence, how should we have the right resourcing in place? I fought for it and I built the right team. Today I have a stable team who's able to support me. Parallelly, I also try to invest in my own self, being away from work for some time and getting into a domain which is a lot more dynamic versus the others. I had to invest time in my own capability. So I used to make sure that every week I'm taking out some time, just to learn something new in the domain that I'm working on, which makes me feel and stay relevant. Right. And at the same time, I also made sure that I have somebody in my ecosystem who I can continuously share and talk feelings out with. Right. And that actually made it so much more easy for me. Sometimes, I felt that sometimes it's just enough to be heard. You don't really need to do too much. You just have to talk it out. You just have to vent it out. So yeah, these were some actions that I took for my own self. It has worked. I'm not sure if this is the best
Yeah.
remedy, but it has
Mhm.
worked very very nicely for me.
Yeah, it should give some pointers to the rest of the folks as well. And one thing what I like the most is it's okay to be imperfect, especially the house part and all, right? Because if we are too much concerned and get into that OCD part of cleanliness and all, we will never be able to get there for sure. So we have to make a little adjustments over there. Now,
But Naveen,
moving,
I
yeah.
must mention, it is not easy. It's not easy to let things go like that.
Yeah,
It has been tough. It is tough even now.
yeah.
But I think if we don't do that, we'll only,
Mhm.
make more, we'll do bad to ourselves than we'll do
Mhm.
good. So I
Mhm.
think if we
Mhm.
take that take
Mhm.
now, it will be so much more easier to move life a little bit
Mhm.
stress free versus the way it will be
Mhm.
if you want to be a perfectionist.
Yeah. Now I have
So
a
yeah.
curious question. Again, since you are a HR leader, seasoned HR leader and all. So what is the most significant barrier that you have observed to the female leadership?
It is, while honestly, I would not say that I have worked and observed so many leaders, but based on my limited experience that I've had so far, one of the biggest barrier is our own self-limiting belief that we are not ready yet. We do not tap onto opportunities thinking that there is time for us to be ready for that opportunity. I have been a victim of this my own self. In my head, I keep telling myself, Deepika, oh, you are not ready yet. I don't know whether you'll be able to do it. Maybe this is not the right time. Maybe somebody else is more ready for this role than you. So, doubting our own capability, not taking that plunge and not moving further and take that, risk, for example, is something that pushes us back. We do not raise our hand and call or ask for opportunities, right? We feel that one fine day will become perfectly ready for the role that will be the next move for us. So yeah, I mean, it's a big myth.
Yeah.
It is a self-limiting belief, that
Mhm.
pulls us back from the journey that we can actually take on,
Yeah.
but we have not.
Indeed, like we cannot say that, okay, it will take XYZ skills to get there and all, right? So even if we are mentally prepared and have that 60 to 70% of capabilities, I think we have to start approaching that role. I think that's an important point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
All
true.
right. Let's move ahead. And here comes another interesting question. What is the most dangerous behavior or trait that you have seen, okay, that derail female leaders' careers?
So Naveen, this is a very interesting question. And, from my own personal experience, and now it's been 13 years, and I've worked with a lot of different types of leaders, in my career journey so far. And the one common thing that I've observed in some of those leaders who have made it big, is that they have learned to fit in. What does that mean? It means that that at that layer,
Yeah.
it is skewed. It is skewed towards the other gender. And to make sure that you are able to be heard, you are able to make a point, you have a seat on the table, you start losing your feminine energy and expanding your masculine energy, which means that you start behaving like male leaders. You lose your feminine energy, for example, over a period of time, which means, and Naveen, it's a very interesting concept. Each individual, irrespective of whether that person is a male or a female or a transgender, for example, has both energies, feminine energy and masculine energy, which associates you with certain traits. Women, by design, have more feminine energy and less masculine energy, and men have more masculine energy and less feminine energy. But because at that top layer there are more men, you try to fit in. And in order to try to fit in, you try to expand your masculine energy, which means that, for example, men like to use a certain type of language, right, while they communicate. They like to go for long smoke breaks. They like to discuss on certain points. You also start doing the same thing, right? But is it really the true self? Is it your authentic self? Most probably, no. There are very few women senior leaders who I have seen who are able to maintain their charisma, their authenticity, and their natural self, because it's tough. You do not feel belonging to that particular group or a cohort if you don't try to fit in, right? You feel left out. You feel the FOMO in today's world's language. But yes, the biggest dangerous trait or a derailer is that women tend to lose their authentic self to fit in. And I also fear this, as I keep progressing upwards, while I'm still at a very foundational level, as I see myself moving and progressing further, I do not have, let's say, many role models who I could say that, okay, this person has managed to retain her authentic self, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do want to learn how to do that, but there's not much that we have come across so far, and I keep seeking guidance from my mentors and from my network in order to unlock that piece for myself, so that when I move further, I'm actually taking the right decisions and becoming a figure which inspires all of these aspirational women over a period of time.
Fantastic. I think you have touched upon this feminine masculine energy, which I'm coming across for the first time. I don't mind admitting that, ignorance and all, but very well put through. And this has been wonderful conversation. I'm thoroughly enjoying every bit of it. Deepika, let's add
Same
some
here, Naveen.
spice. Let's add some spice to the
Sure.
episode. All right, I'm going to kick off a quick rapid fire round with your consent. Are you okay with it?
Absolutely. Let's get
Perfect.
started.
Perfect. Let's jump directly. Have you ever slept in a classroom or a critical meeting or conference?
Oh God. Yes, I have. I have slept in a meeting for like a couple of seconds. I have slept in an exam. I have slept right before an exam and missed the exam.
Oh my God.
You know, over studying all night and not being able to wake up in the morning for the exam has been the funniest thing that has ever happened to me. But yeah, it has been
Indeed. Funny
that
one.
way.
Yeah. Fair enough. Moving ahead. In which subject were you worst at school?
So to be fair, I was a fairly, studious child. I used to make sure
Hmm.
that my grades are good in almost all of the subjects. But I never enjoyed history. I
Hmm.
found it very difficult to relate to it and,
Hmm.
really like understand those milestones and aspects which happened sometime in past and have no relevance, for example, today. So yeah, that was one subject that I didn't like.
And can you describe yourself in just one word?
It's difficult to do that, but I think I am very passionate. I see myself full of passion, emotions, energy, and that willingness to make things work. So passionate is the word.
I can figure it out. Moving to the next one. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Actually, anywhere in the world where my home is, where my family is my safe space. I am okay with any location if they are around.
Fair enough. Moving ahead. What's something that you do not like doing?
I must not say this. Being an HR professional, while I'm very good at networking, I like to build my network and all of that. But my authentic inner self does not like to socialize superficially. So
Yeah.
for me, a connection is a must. I will not enjoy a conversation with an individual if I don't feel connected.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't like having superficial, conversations.
You're so candid and I love it. Okay, moving to the last one. What is one fantasy gadget or the electronic gadget that you like to see or invent yourself?
So I think a gadget, that pauses the activity in a mother's brain so that she can relax and focus on one thing at a time without worrying about others. They say when a mother is sleeping, only 20% of her brain activity is shut. 80% is still on. So she's still thinking, oh my God, is the baby okay? Oh my God, is everything fine? I hope there are no thieves at home and all that, all that. Some gadget, which just gives this brain activity some pause that,
Yeah.
okay, relax. This is your off time. Now go and brainlessly enjoy. That doesn't happen today. I so want this gadget.
Mr. Elon Musk, here is another use case for the Neuralink project.
Yes, yes, I know. I just hope there is some sanity that prevails and this happens.
Great rapid fire. And with that, let's flip back to the mainstream. And before I let you go, one final question for today's conversation, Deepika. What is your single piece of advice to those aspiring to restart their career after a break?
So I hit a deep low, in my life recently, and the one thing that I tell these budding leaders is don't give up. Don't give up. This is not you are meant for much more, than what it is today. Prioritize yourself, seek support, and keep going. Don't give up. Even if it is low, it's fine. Just keep sailing through. That would be my advice.
Fabulous. And as I said earlier, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much once again for being part of my journey. And thank you for your time and all the wonderful insights. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Naveen. I had a great time too. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. I feel so liberated, after sharing all of these answers with you. I hope, this podcast, if it impacts even one single woman out there, I think it is worth it. And it was a pleasure meeting you, Naveen. It was a pleasure interacting with you. I am happy, to share all the
Yeah,
learnings from my life with the
yeah.
larger world. And we'll stay connected.
Absolutely. And this is one of the most authentic conversations I've ever had on the platform, to be honest. And I also believe in the same principle. Like the success mantra of TGV is the same thing. We are not behind money. We are behind impacting people one person at a time until we reach million and beyond. Thank you so much.
Absolutely wonderful, Naveen. Thanks a lot. Thank you. It's so kind of you to mention, that it was an absolute authentic conversation. I'm glad that happened. I think looking forward to hearing some responses, some reactions on this one. And if there are
Absolutely.
any questions that come to you, please do let me know. I would be happy to answer them as well.
Absolutely. And folks, you will find Deepika Rajor's LinkedIn URL in the show notes or the episode description. Just feel free to connect with her, especially if you are a woman and aspiring to make big. I think here is a role model. Just reach out to her. And I would definitely pass the comments if I receive through any other other platforms and all, Deepika. Thank you for the offer.
Great.
So, folks,
Thank you.
yeah.
Take care.
Thank you. So, friends, that was our episode with Deepika Rajor. In fact, it was so energizing, and I felt so happy because we rarely find people who are so authentic by nature, and I really enjoyed it, and I hope you have enjoyed it too. And before we move into the trivia section, here's a request to you. Please subscribe to us in case if you haven't done already. Also, if you have loved this conversation and found it useful, please share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from the guiding voice, especially your women colleagues. And you may also share it with your siblings, whoever is planning to restart their career, or whoever is self-limited, or whoever is facing certain constraints and all. So here, this was one of the perfect examples how somebody can beat the odds and raise up in the corporate career. Thank you so much in advance. Now let's cruise into the trivia segment of today's episode. And today's trivia is about some of the challenges that women leaders face. One research study found that the two biggest challenges keeping women from leadership positions are that women are held to higher standards, like 43% of them state that. And many businesses are not ready to hire women for top executive positions. Again, 43% of the responses say that. And other cited challenges include family responsibilities, not leaving enough time for running a major corporation, so which is cited by about 23% of them. And women don't have access to the same kind of connections as men, cited by about 20% of the respondents. And women being less likely to ask for promotions and raise. This happens with about 18% of the respondents. That's all for today. But in case if you have come across any other challenge, please feel free to comment. Also, if you know any powerful women leader who you think will inspire TGV audience, just share the details, because at TGV, we have featured more than 40% of women so far, and we would be happy to host more and more women leaders that can inspire the world. That's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me. And also, folks, do not forget to share your topic recommendations and guest speaker suggestions through social media or email me at theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. I'm your host, Naveen Samala, just a fellow IT professional, but a passionate learner on a mission to make the world a better place to live through the conversations that matter, conversations that add value to your life and to your career. Until next time, bye-bye. See you all in the next episode with another wonderful corporate.